Have you ever pondered what makes a dictator and why some have been so cruel throughout history? Well, that's precisely what we're going to delve into today. We're about to embark on a chilling journey, exploring the top 10 cruelest dictators in history. But first, let's define our terms. A dictator in its simplest form is a ruler who wields absolute power, often taken by force and maintained through fear, oppression, and violence. Their reigns are typically marked by a blatant disregard for human rights, leading to immense suffering and loss. The cruelty of these individuals is often a product of various factors, including their personal ideologies, a thirst for power, and even their own insecurities. It's a complex web of circumstances that can turn a leader into a tyrant, transforming their rule into a reign of terror. Join us as we journey back in time to explore the lives and reigns of the top 10 cruelest dictators. Our journey begins in the 12th century with Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire. Born as Temujin, Genghis Khan rose from humble beginnings to establish the largest contiguous land empire in history. His strength lay not only in his military prowess but also in his brutal and ruthless war tactics. Entire cities were often razed to the ground, their inhabitants slaughtered or enslaved, as a demonstration of his power. Genghis Khan's reign was marked by blood and conquest. He believed in the notion of total war, sparing no one in his path. His armies were infamous for their speed and brutality, moving across vast territories with terrifying efficiency. These tactics enabled him to create an empire that stretched from Eastern Europe to East Asia, a feat unparalleled in history. But this vast empire came at a cost. Millions of lives were lost, cultures erased, and histories rewritten in the wake of his armies. Genghis Khan's reign was one of the most brutal in history, but he was just the beginning. Fast forward to the 16th century, we meet Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of Russia. Ivan's reign was characterized by rampant violence, often directed at his own people. His volatile temperament was infamous, and it was said that his anger could be as lethal as a winter in Siberia. Ivan's cruelty was not only personal, but systemic. He established the Oprichnina, a personal army that operated outside the law. This force was used to suppress and control the Russian nobility, often through brutal means. The Oprichnina became a symbol of Ivan's reign, a dark shadow that loomed over Russia. His violent tendencies and his establishment of the Oprichnina earned him the moniker the Terrible. This was not a term of endearment but rather a testament to his brutal rule. Ivan's reign was a period of fear, violence, and unrest, setting a chilling precedent for future rulers. Ivan the Terrible, a fitting name for a ruler known for his cruelty. Moving into the 20th century, we encounter Adolf Hitler, the infamous dictator of Nazi Germany. Hitler rose to power in the early 1930s, and his reign was marked by a fervent ambition to establish a new order of absolute Nazi German hegemony in continental Europe. Hitler's aggressive foreign policies and expansionist ideology are widely regarded as the causes of the start of World War II. However, it was his systematic genocidal plan, now known as the Holocaust, that stands as a testament to the depths of his cruelty. Hitler, along with his Nazi regime, orchestrated the mass murder of 6 million Jews, demonstrating a level of human atrocity that the world had never seen before. His reign lasted just over a decade, but the horrific impact of his dictatorship still reverberates today. The world had to bear witness to an unprecedented scale of devastation, loss, and inhumanity. Hitler's reign of terror left a lasting scar on the world's history. In the same era, we find Joseph Stalin, the dictator of the Soviet Union. Rising to power in the late 1920s, Stalin was known for his iron-fisted rule, transforming the Soviet Union from a peasant society into an industrial and military superpower. However, this transformation came at a devastating cost. The Great Purge, a campaign of political repression, resulted in the execution of hundreds of thousands of people perceived as enemies of the state. Stalin's paranoia and lust for power didn't stop there. He also orchestrated the Great Famine, a man-made disaster that caused the deaths of millions, all to consolidate control over the Soviet Union. Fear was a constant under Stalin's regime. People lived in terror, knowing that a single misstep could lead to their demise. Repression was the norm, and death was often the outcome for those who dared to oppose him. Stalin's rule was marked by fear, repression, and death. Across the globe in China, Mao Zedong rose to power. Often revered as the founding father of the People's Republic of China, Mao's leadership was far from benign. His reign, spanning from 1949 to 1976, was marked by sweeping policies that forever changed the face of China. One of these was the Cultural Revolution. This was Mao's attempt to reassert his authority and preserve Chinese communism by purging remnants of capitalist and traditional elements from society. The result? Widespread destruction of cultural artifacts, a significant blow to the economy, and countless lives lost. Similarly, the Great Leap Forward, aimed at rapidly transforming an agrarian economy into a socialist society, led to the Great Chinese Famine. This catastrophic event resulted in tens of millions of deaths, making it one of the deadliest famines in human history. Mao's reign resulted in one of the deadliest mass killings of the 20th century. His radical policies continue to be a subject of heated debate long after his death. Our next stop is Cambodia, under the rule of Pol Pot. Pol Pot, born Saloth Sar, rose to power in the mid-1970s as the leader of the Khmer Rouge, a radical communist faction. His reign was characterized by a brutal, ruthless pursuit of a utopian agrarian society. This vision led to one of the worst mass killings of the 20th century, known as the Cambodian Genocide. Under Pol Pot's command, cities were evacuated, and the population was forced into labor camps. Intellectuals, professionals, and anyone perceived as a threat to the new order were systematically executed. It's estimated that up to 2 million people, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population, died from execution, forced labor, starvation, or disease during this horrific period. Despite its short duration, Pol Pot's rule left an indelible scar on Cambodia, a country that is still recovering from its dark past. Pol Pot's regime was one of the most lethal in modern history. Moving forward to the late 20th century, we find Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq. Ascending to power in 1979, Hussein's rule was an era fraught with conflict and controversy. His leadership was characterized by wars, most notably the Iran-Iraq War and the Gulf War, which not only devastated the region but also led to international isolation. Hussein was notorious for his blatant disregard for human rights. His regime was marked by gruesome acts of violence, including mass executions, tortures, and forced displacements. The Anfal genocide, targeting the Kurdish population in Iraq, is a chilling testament to his reign of terror. His rule also saw the use of chemical weapons, a horrifying first in modern history. His oppressive regime fostered an environment of fear and terror, affecting the lives of millions of Iraqis. His reign came to an end with his capture in 2003 by US forces. Saddam Hussein's rule was marked by brutality and fear. In North Korea, Kim Jong-il continued the oppressive regime of his father. Ascending to power in 1994, Kim Jong-il led a government that was synonymous with absolute control and relentless surveillance. He perpetuated an atmosphere of fear and paranoia, creating a cult of personality around himself and his father, Kim Il-sung. But Kim Jong-il's reign was not only marked by domestic oppression, he also made international headlines with his audacious nuclear weapons program. Defying international norms and sanctions, his pursuit of nuclear technology escalated tensions on the Korean peninsula and beyond. At the same time, the regime's human rights abuses were rampant. Political prisons, public executions, and widespread famine marked the everyday life of North Koreans. The citizens lived under the constant threat of punishment, their every move monitored and controlled. Kim Jong-il's reign was synonymous with oppression and fear, a legacy that continues to affect the Korean peninsula to this day. These dictators from different eras and continents share a common trait: cruelty. We've journeyed through time, spanning from the 13th century reign of Genghis Khan to the 21st century dictatorship of Kim Jong-il. We've crossed continents, from the chilling winters of Russia under Ivan the Terrible and Joseph Stalin to the scorching deserts of Iraq with Saddam Hussein. Each dictator, in their own way, marked their reign with acts of unthinkable cruelty. Millions of lives were shattered, societies crumbled, and nations were brought to their knees. The scale of their atrocities is staggering, a stark reminder of the depth of human depravity when power is wielded without restraint. But these stories are not just about the dictators themselves. They are about the resilience of the human spirit, the courage of those who resisted, and the enduring hope for a better future. History teaches us many things, and the reigns of these cruel dictators remind us of the devastating consequences of absolute power.